Mr. President, the Russia Sanctions Amendment passed by this body 97-2 last year. I take it that the senator from Florida and the senator from Virginia were here at the time. There was one person who was not. Well, it was negotiated between senators of both parties on multiple committees, including foreign relations, banking, and armed services. It was specifically designed to impose tough sanctions on the Russian defense and intelligence sectors, to impose tough sanctions on the Russian military-industrial complex and intelligence agencies that have made it possible for Russia to invade Ukraine, annex Crimea, terrorize Syria, threaten our NATO allies, and attack America's election in 2016. Have no doubt about what this amendment is, my dear colleagues and friends. It is a giveaway to the then Russian military-industrial complex. There have always been a collection of lawmakers, executives, and lobbyists who have accepted continuing, even deepening our nation's dependence on Russian rocket engines. It's exactly what will happen if we allow this amendment to pass, and the door will once again fly open for taxpayers' dollars to be used to subsidize purchases of Russian rocket engines, purchases which line the pockets of Vladimir Putin's cronies. My friends, you want to vote to take and buy more Russian rocket engines? Just say it. That's fine with me. But to cloak it in some kind of bipartisan agreement that somehow we're going to have to continue to buy these Russian rocket engines after we had an agreement last year, 97-2. 97-2. What does this do? This undoes last year's 97-2 agreement. We don't need this amendment to meet America's needs in space. As a result of last year's bipartisan agreement in the NDAA, the Department of Defense is on a path to gradually eliminate dependence on Russia as quickly as possible while fostering competition among American companies. NASA needs to do the same. NASA needs to do the same. NASA needs to do the same. Sanctions, by definition, require trade-offs. Sanctions are not free. Countries that impose sanctions must be willing to pay a cost, too, if and when a greater principle, a great national security interest is at stake. Let me conclude, Mr. President, because I note the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee and the ranking member here. There are costs and trade-offs the United States has been asking our European allies to make in the last few years. We've leaned on France to cancel a sale of naval vessels to Russia. We've been warning Central and Eastern European allies against deepening their dependence on Russian energy with various energy deals and infrastructure projects. We should not be asking our allies to make these sacrifices unless we are prepared to do the same. Mr. President, we will probably pass this amendment. If there's ever a doubt in any of our constituents' minds about the influence of special interest, it will be with passage of this amendment, which, by the way, with all due respect to my friends and colleagues, the one thing they didn't want was an on-the-record vote on this amendment, which is why I am confident it will lose, but I want every member of the United States Senate, I want them to look in the eyes of the mother whose son was just killed by a Russian sniper, as I did down in Mariupol not too long ago. So, Mr. President, I urge a no vote on the amendment. I know how it's going to come out, but members of the United States Senate will at least be on record, and I say this is not the most courageous chapter in the history of this institution.
Mr. President.
Urge a no vote.